Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. This is your host Josh Chapman speaking, and today we're down on the beautiful Victorian surf coast. We're down at Torquay, and the babies are in bed. And when the babies are in bed and you have a special guest with you, you do a nice solo commentary. We've got our man James O'Brien here. Hey, mate.
It's good to be back.
Thanks for coming. It's just timing couldn't have worked out better, really.
Yeah, we took this show on the road and it sort of worked out really well with our family holidays. So.
It has. So we're at the family holiday house. We're downstairs in the kids' lounge sort of thing. And just as a quick background before we get stuck in, I own a copy of Solo on Blu-ray, but I didn't have one with me. And then James said he was going to be down, so I went down to the VideoEzy kiosk and DVD kiosk.
The red box?
The red box, yeah, something like that. And I got Solo on DVD because we had a DVD player, not a Blu-ray player. So we're watching it on DVD. Not the greatest viewing experience ever, but...
we'll make it work.
We'll make it work. So without further ado, we'll get stuck in. We can do a background. How's the light in here? Feeling all right? You need a little bit more?
Yeah, feeling good. I've got my wine glass within easy reach and my beer glass not too far up after that. So we're ready to rock and roll.
All right. So for these people playing along at home, we're right on the Lucasfilm logo here. So in 3, 2, 1. And it's starting, Lucasfilm logo. So this is the second time you've seen this, James?
Yes, I saw this in the cinema, but I haven't seen it again since. So I did forget that there wasn't a title scroll. It just says it is a lawless time.
Yeah.
Crime syndicates compete for resources, food, medicine, and hyperfuel, which is something I'll talk about later.
Hyperfuel, let's get stuck in. Well, let's
talk about it now.
Well, it mentioned Corellia as well, so that's obviously a deep dive from an EU point of view. Hyperfuel, is that actually even a thing?
No.
When I say is it a thing, you're the resident EU expert. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to watch the film and we're going to tap James's extensive EU knowledge here, and he's going to basically tell us which bits are there and which bits aren't there. So hyperfuel doesn't exist in the EU?
Well, not as it's represented here. So here, I think it's coaxium, I think is what they've called it, and it's basically a MacGuffin. And it's something that is very rare and hard to get your hands on. But in the EU, they did have fuel for their reactors and so forth, but you could get it from anywhere.
It seems weird, doesn't it? It feels like, considering this stuff so rare can power one Star Destroyer, but there are thousands of Star Destroyers and it's that expensive. It seems weird that they haven't quite sussed out a fuel source that's a little bit more easy to come by. Where's the renewables?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. I'm looking forward to seeing if there was something I missed the first time around that might help shed some light on that subject.
So Han's dice we just see for the first time, which have become significant in the sort of post-Disney era, never really significant before that. Were they ever touched upon?
Nah, they would have been available in movie props articles, but they never played a role in the story.
Like they're talking about? No. Yeah. I was just wondering whether that was something that they just kind of brought back, or they thought that was.
I have this vague memory of seeing it in the encyclopedia that was a digital one that I had at one point, but I don't remember it particularly clearly.
That's just weird because they usually have it they have a story for everything. I'm surprised that wasn't like the dice that won the Falcon or anything like that, but. I guess it was always Sabak. There's no dice in Sabak.
Well, yeah, Sabak was always the big thing. And West End Games created the rules for Sabak, and there was all this stuff and the holographic cards. But again, that's going to be a little bit different when we get there.
You're just looking forward to the bits to sort of poke holes in and stuff.
Well, no, contrast with maybe.
I do like the Han reverse vest that he's got going on here when he's younger. He's got the white vest on the black shirt rather than the black vest on the white shirt.
Well, he's developing his fashion sense as he gets older, which...
Yeah, that's right. It's probably not many, Roger Davids and stuff in...
Or maybe the Empire's outlawed or that sort of thing.
So. Like nice fashion.
Yeah.
And sleeves. They've outlawed sleeves on your jackets.
Well, this is one thing that's always consistent, is Han always has a love interest floating around.
Yep. So there's always been a lady around.
Yeah, there's always been a lady. Like in the books, like his great love was Briartharan, but he'd get around. He'd hook up with people. He hooked up with Jessa, Doc's daughter, in the Han Solo adventures. That was a bit more transactional, but he was always a ladies' man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they haven't sort of, strayed from that, I suppose. They've just sort of kept that in. Even in the new comics canon that they've done, they've kind of suggested that Han's, broken a few hearts along the way.
Like he is a romantic. Like the core of the character is the same. But this character that's just appeared on the screen, I guess, is his boss because he's working for these outlaw youngsters.
Sort of like he's like Oliver Twist and she's like Fagin. She's sort of like the queen of the outlaw kids.
Yeah, well, in the Paradise Snare, he literally had a character called Fagin, or it was like F8GN, and it was a droid. So effectively, this character here that's kind of like an alien creature was a droid. But he also had a human boss as well, which I don't think he's got in this one.
So that was when he was younger, though?
Yeah. So they'd picked him up off the streets when he was sort of a toddler.
Right.
And it was always very mysterious where he came from before that. You never knew anything about his parents at all.
Because he mentions in this that his dad has built the freighters. So he is either making it up or he knows enough about his dad. So you feel like he must be old enough.
Yeah, well, again, they're not really telling you. They're dropping you into the story well after he's been established with this group for some time, clearly. But we don't know where he comes from, really.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, they're just saying that they gave him a home. Oh, no, they gave Kira a home. So don't throw it away for Han. Good advice.
It's true. A lot of the ladies in his life could probably use that. Could use that. Scum rat's a new derogatory term that I haven't heard before either.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
That's not one that's floated in from the books or anything?
No, that's new. I do like this business of that's a thermal detonator. No, it's a rock. Yeah, because certainly thermal detonators saw a lot of use in the EU, and I don't think we've actually seen one on screen in a Star Wars movie actually being used.
Only the one that Leia holds in Jabba's palace. She only holds it though. She turns it on briefly, but it doesn't actually get any play. Yeah,
the idea is that they're almost like mini nukes. Like they're quite effective. Like you could use one to wipe out like a base, like an Imperial base really could be wiped out by one.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, they're supposed to be quite scary. So the idea that he's got one of these devices but it's actually a rock, that's actually quite clever.
Why is Leia saying she's going to let it go in Jabba's palace?
It's kill everybody. Yeah, it's a suicide mission.
It's a bit close quarters in there, but anyway.
Yeah, wow.
So is this how you sort of pictured Corellia? Sort of dank industrial...
No, the parts of it, because Corellia was supposed to have successful people and unsuccessful people. So Han's section does look that way. Mm-hmm. But Corellia was very well known for having the manufacturing in it, for having the starship yards, but they were floating in orbit, which I don't think we get to see this. Oh, the picture just left us for a second.
We're on the RTC cables and stuff on this DVD thing, so hopefully the commentary is interrupted by a picture loss, but we'll see how we go. We've made it so far.
Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of a chase, so...
Yeah, that's right.
We just lost the picture again.
Oh, dear.
I think from memory this chase goes on for a little bit. Oh, it's back.
It's back. It's back. I might just check the cables here while you keep talking about Corellia, James.
Yeah, well, definitely Corellia was supposed to have upmarket neighbourhoods and downmarket neighbourhoods, but here you kind of get the sense that it's all one working class sort of, I don't know, dystopia. Not quite a dystopia, but very industrial, and like everyone's down on their luck. But it could be that we're only seeing just this particular part of it. But definitely the sense in the books was that it was actually quite a successful planet, because that's where a lot of starships were built. So a lot of Corellians were involved with starship manufacturing, and they happen to be very good pilots. So there's a lot of characters who are now no longer exist who were basically Han Solo knockoffs who were good pilots, like Dash Rendar comes to mind.
The EU is full of a lot of Han Solo knockoffs, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're all Corellian, so... They're all supposed to have come from this background.
They're basically all of, if Han's life diverges in one direction at a certain time, what would he be like? So it was like,
pretty much.
Was it Talon Card?
Yeah, he's like a smuggling like boss. So he would be like Han Solo if he got his act together and had like proper crew and like had like a mini fleet.
Yeah, and hadn't got caught up with the rebellion and, was all about the profit.
Yeah, well, Talon Card does eventually, but yeah, and
Just like...
and Dash Rendar, similar like story, but he was like Han was at the start of episode 4, but he continued that way, just caring only about himself. And then eventually,
all
like,
these Corellians, they do like to care about themselves quite a lot, don't they?
Yeah, well, that was the idea. But it makes sense if they've grown up like this, where they're all kind of fighting for survival and they're getting shot at by... I don't even know who these guys are that are shooting at them.
Yeah, I'd have to check the Wikipedia. They're new creatures.
They're like local security, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Because they're not Imperials.
No, they were Proxima's men, I think. I think that's what Proxima's... Right. That's how they get around in those suits.
Mm.
So she just like lives in the puddle because she's in charge.
Yeah.
When the others want to sort of, get around, they put their little suits on.
Oh, well, that makes sense. But certainly the atmosphere would just be breathable for most people.
Yeah, that's right. So this is an interesting plan, isn't it? They've kind of got to... get through the gate. They've got to bribe their way through the gate.
Yeah, it's almost like they're in kind of like a third world zone trying to cross into like Imperial held customs land.
Yeah, that's right. I do like
that's a little bit of a departure, but like I could see it. It still felt real to me. But
yeah, look, I do like the trend here. They've just got the classic designs, but they're sort of shot in a modern way, and you've got the lighting in this film is actually quite dark. It's quite a darkly lit film. It uses a lot of original light sources and all that kind of stuff like that. And I need to get my mate Sean on, who's a DP. He would know. He could talk your ear off all day about lighting and all that kind of important stuff. There's those.
Oh, the dice just showed up again. So Han just gave them to Kira for luck. Damn right. Like the Han Solo and luck has always been a
it's
thing.
funny because like in Last Jedi where Luke's appears to Leia at the end and she gives the dice to Leia. And says, people aren't really gone, Han's still there with you. She'd been like, well, there's those dice that he gave those other chicks. Like,
yeah.
I don't care. He gives those dice to all those girls. We had a kid. That's more important.
Yeah, well, I guess it's supposed to be symbolic of him taking chances and taking risks. And never tell me the odds because he's happy to shoot for that really low probability outcome.
Yeah, that's true.
I see. Now they're talking about coaxium pretending they've got it, I guess.
No, they do have it because I think he nicks a little bit.
Ah, right. He's got some in his hand.
So that's the job. That was he was supposed to get at the job, but he nicked it, I think.
Mm. Oh, they got Kira.
Dude.
Yeah.
He's a lot more, a bit more emotional, isn't he, young Han?
Yeah, and that was always consistent. The idea was always that he was very emotional and romantic when he was younger, but then things happened to him that jaded him. So this is all very, very much as it should be.
Yep.
Oh boy, he's getting really fired up.
But for a guy who's still trying to, it's just like, dude, they're still after you.
Yeah, well, because I guess he's not actually authorized to be on that side because he's bribed his way in.
Yeah, so they were talking about having IDs and all that kind of stuff like that. Like he hadn't really thought that far through yet. He just wanted to get into the spaceport and try and get himself onto a ship. But yeah, there's a lot of people who need tickets, but there just happens to be a Imperial recruitment thing on the other side of the.
So he hasn't gone in planning to join.
No.
The Empire at all.
So how does he join the Empire in the books? Do you remember?
Well, that was always like a career option and something that he had considered. And after things fell apart with that girlfriend I mentioned, Bri Tharan, he just kind of goes for it to sort of better his life. And he was also trying to prove that that he could be things other than a criminal.
Yep.
So he's obviously, we've kind of skipped over it here, but he has a shady criminal past. Like he runs cons, he does things. And so
he mentions a few times that he's been running scams and stuff since he was a kid. And
But yeah, that's very consistent that Han did want to better himself, but then it doesn't work out for him.
Yeah, but he could just go like down the local Imperial thing on the corner and join up. He didn't have to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Feels like he could have, done that anywhere, really. But I suppose he joined the Empire probably wasn't the plan. He's kind of in a bit of a corner here.
Yeah, and this is where Han generally does his best work.
So here he is getting the name.
Han Solo. Yeah, I still don't know how I feel
Drive
about
with
that.
you about that?
Yeah, just because Solo was his family name. Like, he has a cousin. There are other relatives he sort of chooses not to go and look at. And then we jump to 3 years later. So.
Now, there is a deleted scene that I have seen that's on the Blu-ray where he is sort of court-martialed. They sort of show what he does to get kicked out of the flight academy. So we can't show that now because we can't stop the recording.
Well,
It's just the way it is, but-
I'll have to look into that.
But I think it's on YouTube. You can have a look. And it's quite interesting, yeah, that he sort of just, tries to do some sweet moves, gets told not to do that, and he trashes a TIE fighter, I think, in a hangar and stuff. And there's actually a comic as well that's come out that's sort of more about his Imperial cadet days. So it goes into more of that. There's a lot of him, mucking up, but hey, you're such a damn pilot, we want to keep you in. So I think he sort of exhausts I think sort of him getting, into this battle. He's actually been in the Air Force or the Navy for quite a while. He's only just ended up in the war zone, so he hasn't actually sort of been infantry for a very long time.
Well, yeah, and in the books, it was very much about Chewie. So the thing that got him thrown out permanently was the fact that he stood up when he saw Chewie being attacked and basically treated as a slave because he was a slave.
Yep.
And he freed him. And then he got stuck with Chewie, which was the original origin story of the life debt.
Yep. And there's no real life debt in this.
Well, that's true. If anything, Han owes his life more to Chewie.
But I don't think there's any mention of the life debt in any of the films. It's always been sort of spoken about in the books and stuff, but I don't think there's anywhere in the films that says that Chewie has a life debt with Han.
With one possible exception being the holiday special. I've got a feeling.
It's not life day. It's not life debt day. It's life day. So I think that's one of those things where it's that sort of it was a thing that was assumed because it had carried over from the books and stuff, but is actually quite easily to be wiped out. So it's sort of there's more of a codependency than Chewie feeling obliged that he can't walk away because Han actually lets him, gives him the chance to walk away a couple of times and he doesn't do it.
Yeah, so he's got a lot more agency here, Chewbacca, which is excellent.
Yeah, so he's not more sort of enslaved to have to hang around with this schlub for the rest of his life because he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, well, it's certainly implied after the first couple of times he's saved Han's life that he's really doing it because he likes Han.
Yes. So we've just kind of breezed over Woody Harrelson's crew.
Oh, yeah.
Beckett and Val and Rio. I've remembered all the names.
Oh, you've done well.
Well, I have seen this a couple more times than you.
Well, yeah, certainly they're all original characters that have been created for this.
Yeah, but you said there was a Beckett feels like an amalgamation of other...
He does. So he feels a lot like that human boss character that I mentioned before that wasn't around on Corellia, who's named Garrett Shrike, who's kind of got that real American Southerner kind of like drawl to him.
Like a cowboy.
Yeah, he's kind of like a space cowboy. And there's another space cowboy who reminds me a lot of him, particularly in where it's going to end up, named Galandro, who is the fastest gunman in the galaxy, like known to be such.
Does he have a sweet hairpiece like Woody Harrelson?
Well, I never actually got the description of his hairpiece, so now I'll just picture Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson's just got explicitly, full head of hair.
Yeah.
It's always a bit suspicious.
Well, here I guess it's covered up under a cap.
I think he likes these days. He's probably just like, the more days I can wear a hat, the better. I don't have to go to hair and makeup as long. He's sort of talking about the scams.
Yeah, boosting AV-21s. Yeah, so that's the sort of thing that he was supposed to be doing with the outlaw gang, like the gang of kids. And he's saying that he got kicked out for having a mind of his own,
which is it's a good vague way of saying, well, we can join the dots later. Basically,
yeah,
we don't actually have to show you if we don't.
Yeah, like it makes sense for Disney to deliberately leave bits to be covered later, which was very much a George Lucas thing back in the day. Was he would say these subjects are taboo. You'll find out about them later, if ever.
I think in the EU books, I think one of the only things he really said was off limits was the Clone Wars. I think he said that you weren't allowed.
Yeah, Clone Wars were off limits for ages, but he made an exception for Timothy Zahn to get involved.
Oh, to at least use clones, yeah.
And Han's upbringing, like the missing years from 0 to 3 when he got picked up by the outlaws, that was another mystery. And Anakin's birth was another mystery as well.
Yep.
Which then kind of got a little bit of light shone on it much later.
Yeah, well, there's a comic that just came out, I think last week or the week before, that heavily implied that Palpatine was his father.
Well, yeah, the EU
Which has always kind of dance around that anyway. That's always sort of been suggested to a point. And here we have Han in the mud pit.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen the movie, Han is...
If you haven't seen the movie, why are you listening to this? At least...
Anyway, he's got himself in a situation. He's in a pit.
He's got himself in a Han sticky situation.
Yeah. He's bounced a lot from sticky situations.
So do you think this was Chewie straight up when you saw it? Like as soon as you
I suspected.
Because you were very much like, I'm just going to not assume anything that I read in a book is going to happen in this film.
Pretty much. I quite like this whole scene. And we didn't get a good description of what Han said when he first saw Chewie or how he actually freed him from the book, so I don't have that in my mind.
So I quite like they don't actually play it out in the books.
Yeah, it's not actually like an on-screen thing.
Oh, it's just sort of spoken about later.
Yeah, it's picked up like a couple of weeks after his decision. Han is hanging out on Coruscant because that was the last posting he was on, and Chewie's hanging around, like living in alleys and like haunting him, and he wants Chewie to go away until Chewie saves his life the first time.
Ah, right. I just assumed it was one of those things where it just completely plays out in a book. So you just, isn't that interesting? They always kind of talk about that that's what happened, but it's never actually been fully described.
Yeah, so it's nice to actually be able to see it. But yeah, I kind of prefer this.
But they kind of have
particularly
to work
because it's
together.
very entertaining. Yeah.
You don't mind him talking, and the subtitles just says "speaks Wookiee language" in brackets on there.
Mm. Yeah, and it would make sense that he says, "Me have a plan to break out." I like that. You and I freedom make. Like that. That's exactly what you would think.
Secret battle of pretend.
But yeah, that he would be able to speak it, but not fluently because he's not a Wookiee.
But he's been running scams on the streets, so he's running into all sorts of people. Yeah,
well, he's pretty brave if he's been conning Wookiees.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, people are kind of going, well, why can Ray understand Chewbacca? It's like, well, Wookiees are around. It's if you sort of got to fend for yourself, you probably language is probably a skill that you can pick up, regardless where you come from.
That's true. Well, it is supposed to be set in a galaxy that is far away. Like, and in the books, it was made clear that they all speak, when we think they're speaking English, they're speaking Basic.
Yeah, which is like the universal language everybody can kind of speak.
So, yeah, potentially easier for aliens to speak it. Oh, and Han's now been dragged on behind Chewie, yeah. But yeah, I'm quite fond of this scene. I think it works really well. And yeah, you just described Beckett as very good friends.
Yeah, you're already talking about all the sweet friends that he's got. He's just sort of already talking himself up, really. It's never really spoken about. I'm sure it'll come into a comment how Chewie does actually end up there, though. Because is it Mimban they're on? So Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Exactly. So yeah, they're effectively putting down, I guess, an early resistance group on Mimban, which was the very first EU planet to ever be introduced. So I'm quite pleased that it is on screen. You can't really see it.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to say, oh, it's not accurate or inaccurate to the book, because...
Yeah, well, Mimban was supposed to be quite tropical and like had swamps, but they did go through several environments while they were in there, and like Luke and Leia got very close to making out in like an underground cavern because like they were swimming. And yeah. So it's
The
good
whole,
to
the whole
see him
idea
in
was
bad,
that it was
isn't
going to be a cheap sequel, wasn't it? That if Star Wars didn't make much money, they could it was all sort of one location and didn't have Harrison Ford in it because he was sort of the name. So there you go. There's Mimban. I think I have read most of the book, but I really don't remember what happens.
Yeah, well, it's all about another MacGuffin. It's about a kyber crystal, which at that point in time was like a super powerful enhancement to your force abilities. So if Darth Vader got it, he'd be invincible. And so their main concern was keeping it off Darth Vader.
Oh, there's the shower scene.
Yeah.
Never really thought about people showering in Star Wars before.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to have like units for that purpose wherever they go. So
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, you assume if you're on a spaceship that's got
the
lodgings or
refresher, I
bins
believe
and
they call it.
Yeah, I do like how Chewie comes out and he's all nice and fluffy. He's been
some good
blow
shampoo.
dried. He's got some good shampoo. He's got his knots out.
Well, yeah, because that story that was set on Mimban with Luke and Leia ends with Luke actually taking on Vader and like beating him because Obi-Wan basically possesses him and controls him, and so Obi-Wan is fighting Vader but as Luke. So he's now got the advantage of youth on his side.
What a shame we didn't see that one.
Yeah, that's what we could have seen if Star Wars was a flop. And now we're finding out his name. That's good. Chewbacca.
Doesn't seem like that much of a mouthful.
No,
does
I
it?
wouldn't have thought so.
I
It's
think
like
that's a little
three
bit harsh.
syllables.
Yeah, considering some of the crazy names that people have to deal with.
But I do like how they use their old school technology from, like, say, Empire Strikes Back with like the range finders.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of attention to detail. I think when people come in, people who are fans get to direct these movies, that's the kind of stuff they really like to put in. All those little 70s tech things that they put in. And
Yeah, like all the data screens do look like...
yeah, well, that's the thing. They've got spaceships, but all their screens are kind of crappy analog screens. They don't have mobile phones. They don't even really have the internet. Oh, they've got the HoloNet, haven't they?
Yeah,
Kinda like the
well,
internet.
HoloNet was, basically the internet, but you could have 3D, which was cool.
There you go. Boss gets
Boss
name
got
dropped.
name dropped. And the Zan sisters, I want to say, are another Mos Eisley Cantina background people, like the pair of assassins that were...
Are they the two sort
With
of
long
ladies with
hair?
the long...
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there are some sweet little references in here, isn't there? They
Yeah, it's chock full of stuff, which is excellent. Because it does provide a thrill for people like me who have grown up with
it's like, oh yeah, there
all
it is.
this stuff.
There's another one. There's another one. Was it Valacord something that was mentioned?
No, that's not
That's a
something
new
I'm
one?
familiar with.
I always thought that might have been a new one that dropped in.
Yeah, like there were a lot of things that were like everyday items that we have, and they'd just stick another word in front of it, like
Yeah.
like there would be like hyperblades and things like this, just stuff that you would just call it a blade, but they're like, no, it's got to be
spacey. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There's a nice rug that Woody Harrelson's got going on his head.
Yeah, well, he's a stylish man.
You're just wrong, though, dude.
Yeah.
Talking about how he knows that Kira's still there. She probably left 5 minutes after he did.
Well, yeah, interesting that she's joined Crimson Dawn. Well,
spoilers.
oh, there you
No,
go.
that's okay. If
You've seen the movie, right?
Why would you be listening to this if you haven't seen the movie?
But yes, the choice of criminal organisation is interesting because they could have gone just Black Sun.
Yep.
Just made it Prince Caesar's gonna make an appearance later in like the sequel, and it would have been ace.
Yep. So Crimson Dawn doesn't exist outside of this film.
Yeah, I could have sworn that it did, but I looked high and low and couldn't find any reference to it. Because I thought I'd seen it mentioned in the same breath as Black Sun, being like, these are different criminal organisations that are running around.
So you got hightailed it to the library and busted through the volumes just to double check.
Yeah, had a quick flick through and had a look on the net and could have sworn it was in a source book, but oh well.
And here he is getting his blaster sorted.
Ah, DL-44.
So there is a little origin story for, how he got his ship, how he gets his blaster, how he's got his vest.
It's got to have every detail is going to be accounted for.
Yeah. But I mean, that's pretty typical for these sort of films, all the little things that people want to know.
Yeah. Well, that's how people who I knew when I was growing up learned all these things, was that they would be entire books, like anthologies, like taking a scene like the Mos Eisley Cantina and be like, this is every single thing that's going on in it. And
yeah, it's certainly not new. It's weird that people sort of go, oh, they're putting all this stuff in. It's like, well, they've been doing it for years of showing
getting
you
a lot of
little
mileage
details
out of very small things.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like this character.
Val.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of bit the dust a bit early, didn't she, really? But
That she did.
The problem was that she was sort of a disposable character played by a really good actor. And unfortunately, it makes you miss the actor because the performance is so good. Everybody likes Thandie Newton. She's a really good actor. But you kind of go, if it had just been some other, stiff, it wouldn't have really mattered so much. But I mean, it's even strange that they kill off Rio so early as well, but I guess it's not really their story, is it? They're just sort of there to move the story along. Rio has to eat it so Han can prove what a good pilot he is. And
that's very much in the vein of the previous Star Wars story, where everyone you meet is likely going to end up with a bad end by the end of it.
Yeah, that's right.
But they just mentioned that the coaxium stash that they've got there would be enough to power a fleet. So
right.
In Disney World, you only need that small amount.
I do like these troopers. I think they're range troopers. I actually got one of the Black Series ones quite recently on the cheap for about $10.
Nice.
Oof. I don't know about that. Chewie's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
He must be about 150 kilos.
Oh, just adrenaline that pick up a Wookiee and save him.
Pick up a Wookiee
face
when he
of
needs
certain
to
death.
pull out of the way of a mountain.
But like I enjoy the visuals. I think that the way they're using the technology is pretty consistent.
Well, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and there's a few train heists in that where you've got to, uncouple the cars and you've got to, run across the top of the things. And, it's a very Western trope, isn't it? The old train heist.
Which is good, because Han Solo's story is very much it is a Western. It should be.
And I do like the Memphis Nest.
Yeah, well.
And I think the Cloud Riders, which is the name of a gang, is an EU. I think it was in one of the comics, in the Marvel comics.
Oh, like the very old ones.
Yeah, the kind of wacky 70s ones.
Yeah, because again, before they knew what Star Wars was really gonna be, the early comics and very early books had some really wacky stuff going on in them.
Yeah, it's a great design though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a really cool Black Series Memphis Nest bike you can get, but it's a little bit out of my price range of what I'm willing to pay. I know a few people who've got it, but yeah, well, hopefully it's not the end. That it's not the last we see of Memphis Nest. We sort of find out later in the film that she's involved in the creation of the rebellion, and they're going to do the Cassian Andor series, and so it's potentially that somebody like her could turn up.
I'd say a lot of the stuff that they were setting up here might turn up in that Cassian Andor series.
Well, yeah, considering maybe they don't make any more sequels of this because it sort of didn't do the numbers that they wanted, but
because clearly they have an arc intended for Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the Crimson Dawn are more in this than the Hutts.
Well, the Hutts aren't in it at all. I mean, when we went and saw this with some of my friends, and we did a little pod before we went in, and we were just like, well, we'll definitely see Hutts. That's a bit of a given. You know,
Yeah.
we just assumed that, you know, Jabba the Hutt. But he was all sort of laid out as sequel bait. So it would be a shame. I would really love to see him have another crack at Jabba the Hutt, make him look right, because he's only ever looked right in Return of the Jedi. He's always looked weird other times.
Yeah, because Han's journey in the books was very much he gets in with the Hutts and he's with them for quite a long time, and he's actually very friendly with them, like genuinely friends. But he's still pulling off jobs and things, and he's smuggling for them.
Well, yeah, it seems like Jabba likes him, especially in sort of the scene that's restored in the original Star Wars. You know, he's sort of, you know, he's my boy. You're the best, mate. You know, he's made him a lot. You know, they've worked out pretty well for each other, but it's only when the deal, you know, when the deal goes bad, James.
Yeah, can't trust anybody when the deal goes bad. But yeah, like in the books, like the Empire like attacks like their homeworld, like the Smuggler's Moon, and the Hutts pull out because they're like they don't want to deal with that. And Han organizes all his fellow colourful characters to get together and fight them off.
Ah, is that why he falls out with the Hutts? Isn't it because he dumps the shipment or something? Isn't it?
Yeah, he dumps it during Kessel Run later. So the Hutts are actually quite impressed with him defending the Smuggler's Moon, but later on things go sideways. Because when do we think that this train heist has been set at the moment?
Well, it's 3 years after he joins the army. So if he's sort of 18, 19, when he's at the start of the film, he's 21, 22 now. That's how I sort of saw it. And then New Hope, he's 30 by the time he gets to New Hope.
Yeah.
So you kind of got a 5 or 6, 6 or 7 year gap.
Well, that makes sense because in the books he reached that point where he was ready to break free of the outlaw gang when he was 18.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's around about the same. So she sort of just, Val's kind of pinned down, and she sort of just, you feel like she could have, I don't know, thought of something different to get out of this situation rather than blow herself up. I don't know, like.
Hung on to that grappling gun and
she had
jumped off.
Yeah, or jumped on a droid, Obi-Wan style, and kind of floated down, or jumped on the train, or. Like, she's got a remote. I don't know.
But you certainly get the impression that these characters genuinely care for each other.
Yeah, they sort of establish a good relationship there, but.
Yeah, Beckett's very upset right now.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson's not happy at all about that.
Because that was very much Han's thing, was that he would meet colourful characters and he would kind of want to be friends with them. He'd still be wary of them and how they could double cross each other. But they're very much like they genuinely care about each other.
Yep.
Which means that when they do double cross each other, it really hurts him quite deeply. Because it's all about him becoming this jaded person who they meet in episode 4. And that's all very consistent.
Now apparently the explosion effect, I was reading something about it, is all a practical effect. They're using some special camera to film it. I think it's an explosion underwater or something like that to make if you ever look at it's quite a unique explosion effect that it sort of goes into a ball and see if we can.
So the heist has gone really wrong.
Oh,
okay.
But see if it's sort of in a ball. See like that?
Yeah.
Apparently they were using some sort of special camera or something like that. There was a practical explosion that had been done.
That's pretty cool.
I don't think they blew up the whole mountain, but the element that they put in.
Well, ironically, like that explosion look is probably not dissimilar to what a thermal detonator is supposed to achieve.
Yeah, that's right. That's a definite hairpiece on Woody.
He's definitely got your attention, has he?
I can't stop. Once you start looking at it, you can't sort of.
Ah, there you go. Hide by Crimson Dawn.
Oh, Chewie's mad.
Yeah.
Feels like it's information that you might have given up front.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like everything is controlled by like a handful of groups, like cartels. So like, there's not really independent work, and that's something that Han struggled with in his career, was trying to find a good employer.
Yep.
He was very much like a working class, like bouncing from employer to employer, trying to find someone who could get good money off, but he'd always end up being criminal in some way.
Just hard to make an honest living out there, you know?
Yeah. Which is ironic, because joining the rebellion, particularly in the EU, he's basically set up as a stay-at-home dad afterwards. His wife is the most powerful woman in the galaxy.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do?
He's got a stipend. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I think in the new canon, I think he gets into like racing and stuff like that. That's what he kind of does in his spare time. But it's sort of hinted on in the books, and he only really gets back into smuggling when it all kind of goes bad with Kylo. Then he sort of gets back into the old life. You know, keep his mind off things.
Yeah, which I feel it does lessen his redemption a little bit, that he does fall back into it. But I do quite enjoy seeing him in episode 7.
Sort of lumbering around.
Yeah.
That sort of old Harrison Ford style. I always don't mind seeing Han get punched in the face. I think it's Harrison Ford always does it. I mean, Indiana Jones gets punched in the face much more than Han Solo, but he always does a sort of his expressions are always quite good when he gets punched in the face, Harrison Ford.
Well, yeah, and he's trying to then make friends with whoever's punched him, or de-escalate the situation in some way.
Right.
That's a... Yeah, it's just an adventure, which I quite liked. I enjoyed this movie, watching it.
So we've got the Dryden Voss floating space yacht, or whatever he's got going on. Which he does have one of my favourite things are coming up here, which is the singing fish. I don't know if you remember the singing fish. It's like the lady singing and the fish.
But interesting that Beckett lets Han keep his gun.
Yeah,
well, I thought
he's...
it was a loner for that job.
Oh, there he is.
Ah.
It's very Star Wars.
It is.
There's just an obvious guy with his hand up a thing, and yeah.
Yeah, well,
don't ever change.
The Biff musicians from the Mos Eisley Cantina, but the modal nodes and his group.
Yeah,
they couldn't get him for this one.
Nah, they were booked out for this gig.
Mm.
They look very his henchmen, these Dryden Voss's henchmen guys. That's very Fifth Element. They feel like they feel like these guys. They seem very Fifth Element to me.
Yeah, they're kind of almost like Gamorreans, but made good.
Yeah,
kind of
they're just the sort of the look and with sort of the obvious dudes in suits. You know, they're kind of like, we put the helmet on. We only got to do the bottom half of the. You know, it's the Doctor Who thing where it's like the guy at the front has the makeup on, and all his mates are all wearing their helmets and stuff, and you only have to put one of them in helmets, one of them in makeup. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that sort of thing still looks better most of the time than CGI aliens.
Mm.
Like, it was one thing that I always loved about the Star Wars universe, was that you could feel an emotional attachment to these races, and pretty much every race in the Mos Eisley Cantina now has like a backstory and a home planet. And
yep.
Like, presumably that's something that they were hoping to create out of this. And probably
they always, a lot of the movies have the scene with all the different characters and stuff, whether it's the sort of Maz's castle or the casino in Last Jedi, or Jabba's palace.
Mm.
I do like Han's little hug here. It's like, oh
yeah. And he just got the best news ever. He's just super happy.
Yeah, so she doesn't sort of ask why he, you've been out for a while too. You didn't look me up in the phone book, or
Yeah, didn't send a message. He would have had shore leave at some point.
yeah, that's right. I'm not quite sure how it works in the Navy. I guess if he gets kicked out of the Navy and you get sent off to the infantry, it's like, well, probably lose your shore leave.
It's a bit of a what's wrong with a phone call situation. It's
So do you just see Khaleesi anytime you see?
Yeah, a fair bit. Massive Game of Thrones fans, and my wife is actually a silent partner in the room.
She's Yoko Onoing in the corner here, just trying to watch the film without two idiots talking over the top of it. But anyway.
But yeah, we're both massive Game of Thrones fans, and yeah, so I do see a lot of Khaleesi. Mind you, I think she's different enough. I do think she's got range.
Well, her hair's different colour as well.
That's important.
Did you ever see the Terminator movie where she was Sarah Connor?
Yeah, I did. There was potential there, but
It was a very
it was unfortunate.
muddled film, wasn't it? Really?
It truly was. But yeah, sadly, she was terrible in that. However, she's quite good in this. So I feel like she's been genuine here talking to him.
Oh, look, I think she is genuine. I think she's just, she's obviously had to do some stuff to get out where she did. And, she's knee deep in this criminal organisation now. And she.
And of course, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. Well, she would know Beckett if she worked for
that
Dryden.
makes sense. He's like a subcontractor that they use a lot, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. And Han's just, some fool that they picked up across the way. It is funny when they do say this is Han Solo. Because I have no trouble buying that it's Han Solo. It's always weird when they go, oh, he actually addresses himself by name or is addressed by name. You kind of go, oh, yeah, Han Solo.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who normally introduces himself. But yeah, Dryden just made a crack about Corellia being a putrid sewer.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really how I pictured Corellia.
He's just
got rough parts.
But that's the thing. Like, planets are big places. It can't all be rubbish.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lack of opportunities for the general population of the galaxy. So, like, if you don't turn to crime, like, and join one of these organizations, how are you supposed to?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily easy to get it to leave either. He must be very tall, Paul Bettany, because Woody Harrelson's quite tall, isn't he?
Yeah, well,
I always assumed he was.
Yeah, it is funny because, like, I now see Vision whenever I see Paul Bettany.
Yep.
And Vision's definitely quite tall.
Well, he's as tall as Paul Bettany, I assume.
Well, yeah, that makes
probably
sense.
slightly taller because he probably wears some fancy boots and things.
Oh, you just dropped, you know who I answer to.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Do they all know Darth Maul, or do they know him as just Maul, or do they just know him like? That always sort of throws up a bunch of questions about having Darth Maul in this.
Well, his identity as a Sith Lord is probably not that well known because the galaxy at large doesn't know that Palpatine is a Sith Lord.
Yeah,
and so that was an EU plot point, was that they don't know that they've been run by Darth Sidious.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, the Yoda knows and Obi-Wan knows, but that's about it. And, like, maybe some of their friends at the
Then,
top.
like, his best mate's Darth Vader, and he calls himself Darth Vader as well. So they kind of give the game away.
Well, he's kind of presented as the only Dark Lord of the Sith.
They just a bit of hide muscle. Were Pikes in the EU?
Nope. So that's another new one.
So do you remember who ran Kessel in the EU?
Kessel was run by the Empire. So they the smuggling bit would be like literally that they're smuggling out things that the Empire wants and then they're escaping from them.
Because the Empire do turn up, don't they?
Yeah.
But only after it all sort of goes down. But the Pikes seem to sort of run the shop.
Because the idea with Kessel was that the spice was unique to there. And so if you picked up that spice, it would enhance your navigating skills. A bit like June, a little bit.
Yep.
But
yeah, there's no mention of spice in this at all, is it? You know, because spice is sort of like a drug, basically. And,
yeah.
you know, Han was basically just smuggling drugs, but in this, they've gone, oh, no, it's just fuel. He ain't running no drugs. It would have been harder to do, you know, if you continue the story with the huts and stuff, because they were all about the spice.
But yeah, Kessel was the only place that you could get it, and so that was why it was massively important. So I guess that's not that dissimilar to coaxium being rare.
Yep.
It's good that she vouched for him, because no one would have actually seen him pilot.
Well, I mean, Beckett has, but he's sort of, you know, I think he's just trying to get out of the room alive.
I feel great about this plan, as opposed to I have a bad feeling.
Yeah.
He's quite a good character. I like Dryden.
Yeah, well, originally, when they did the original sort of round of shooting, it was going to be a CG character played by Michael K. Williams, I think. He's from The Wire. Have you seen The Wire?
Oh, yeah.
Omar on the Stroll. So they obviously changed that. So are they on a different planet now, or have they just gone to a different spot?
I think it's a different planet.
This bit was a bit strange because they had to leave Dryden's bit and then they were just at another bar. I wasn't sure whether it was sort of walking distance or down the road, or they've specifically gone to a different spot to seek out Lando.
Well, that's the thing about Lando, is he could be anywhere. They planes are back. But yeah. So back in the EU, the rules were set up in a source book. It was like a role playing game source book. Like they set up the rules, and they said this is exactly how you're supposed to play it. And they had holographic cards that would change. Mm-hmm. So you've got physical cards, but the value on them will change unexpectedly on you.
Right.
And Han wins because he bets a really long shot with like the worst hand, and it turns into the best hand.
And that's how he wins the Falcon.
That's how he wins off Lando.
And isn't the whole story that he basically says he can have any ship he wants, but he doesn't think he knows the Falcon's there or something like that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, he has his eye on the Falcon because he's known Lando for a long time. He's actually helped teach Lando how to fly the Falcon. And then, yeah, Lando doesn't think that he would go for the Falcon. And so it's a bit of a betrayal that Han's like, well, actually, I've had eyes on your ship this whole time.
Yep.
I've always wanted it, and I'm taking it.
Yeah. So he's kind of like, hey, you can have anything else you want here.
Yeah.
He's like,
he offers
"No,
him
dog."
everything he's got. He had a fair few ships, but... Yes, Lando is always supposed to be quite good at this game, but he does cheat from time to time.
Well, he does. He does a lot of cheating in this, basically.
But Lando's thing is that he also reads people, arguably better than Han does. Han's more about luck, whereas Lando...
It's more about... He's like the guy from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah, like Lando never thinks that anyone could be conning him. So in like one of his books, he gets very upset when he realizes that someone has actually conned him into doing something for him.
Yeah, right. Because he's always like, I'm the one in control. I'm playing the...
But Donald Glover was just amazing in this film.
So how does Han and Lando meet in the EU?
So that was awesome, which was that Boba Fett was involved.
Boba Fett
was out looking for Han not for the Hutts, for a different set of people that he'd annoyed. And Boba Fett had caught him and had like tranquilized him with a drug that made him obedient. And
The EU.
Yeah.
It's just, yep.
yeah, and so like he was walking around with him, and Lando actually saves his life because he wants to hire Han as a pilot, and he shoots Boba Fett with the same thing, not knowing who he is. Like he's pickpocketed him and he's shot him with the same thing, and he realizes afterwards, like, oh my god, this is Boba Fett. Oh no,
Mess with the wrong.
yeah. But yeah, Boba Fett was just a little bit humbled by the whole thing, and they just send him off in a ship in the opposite direction to them. Because Han and Boba are supposed to have this really ongoing feud.
Niggle.
Yeah. That they every now and then cross paths, but he doesn't appear in this at all.
No, and that was another sort of speculation going, oh, they'll probably drop Jabba in, they'll probably drop Boba Fett in, but yeah, it's just a shame, that it didn't sort of do all the bank it probably would have done if it had come out at Christmas. We'd probably be talking about Solo too. But it has done well on home video, so you never know. You never know.
Well, yeah, a lot of those things would be later in his life. Like this is clearly supposed to be when he's at his younger end. But yeah, the Sabak, the game here is all wrong. So whenever I watch it, I'm like, oh god, that's not right.
Well, they don't really play the rules here, do they? They basically just go Han wins with whatever he's got.
Yeah. But yeah, the cards look all wrong. They're not shifting. It's all But Lando's character is dead on. It's nailed it. So I'm quite pleased about Lando.
Jeez, he's not very subtle there.
Yeah.
The old card thingy, he just sort of, he wasn't really trying to hide it very much. You feel like if he's got that, yeah. I think like a little how he saunters down the steps there, does his little shuffle down the steps.
Well, he's got swagger, Lando. And see, everybody knows each other.
Well, again, she's obviously seeking out Lando, so she knows, at least has probably worked with him, or Harry and the boy. It's quite funny.
Yeah, well, Kira does remind me a bit of that love interest I mentioned that was Han, but she does play him in a similar fashion. Like she pretends to be recruiting him for a purpose and then double crosses him later, but it's because she's purely in it for the rebellion.
Yep.
So her motives are different, but what goes down between them is quite similar.
A little known joke of Aura Singh.
Yeah.
From Phantom Menace.
Including killing her off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Aura Singh was supposed to be like seriously badass. So that was another like character that had appeared very briefly and then got a backstory that she's really, really deadly. Like Obi-Wan tangles with her, can't take her. Kind of
it seems like she gets pushed off a ledge or something.
Yeah, and then Beckett's pushed off a ledge.
Well, you got to be on your game.
Which is kind of like what Han eventually does to Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi. Just knocks him off.
She was hypnotized by the hairpiece. And now we're just seeing L3 for the first time.
They're using you for entertainment.
Oh, there's Clint Howard. I think there he is. Ron Howard's brother. And that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge playing L3. Have you ever seen Fleabag or Killing Eve? I think she's involved in it as well.
No, the name's very familiar. Though.
Yeah, she's quite big in Britain as a actor and writer.
But we've yet to see the establishment that does serve droids.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
What do you got to lose? So she just drops the name Black Spire. That's the name of the Disney park that's going to be at Disneyland. I think
Uh,
it's Black Spire Outpost, I think is going to be the name of the world that you enter into. So there's a nice little, just dropping in the names there.
they're all connected. Did you just call him Landonis?
I think that's what the subtitle said. Is that canon?
Well, no, in the EU, he was always Lando. Like, it was never short for anything else.
It wasn't Landonis.
No, it wasn't Landonis.
Calrissiano.
But yeah, like interesting. Certainly in the EU, droids gain more independence if they didn't get mind wiped regularly.
Yep.
And so clearly she's got a long time without having a mind wipe.
Yep. Well, they always talk about, 3PO getting his mind wiped and sort of R2 being the only one who keeps all the information. He's the one who has all the dirty secrets.
And hence why he's so plucky, because he's never been wiped.
Why he's so plucky.
But like there
there's
was
the
a
Falcon.
book where the droids tried to rise up. And there was a subplot with the bounty hunter, the IG-88, that was just wacky.
Is this the one where he becomes the Death Star?
Yes.
Yes.
He uploads himself into the Death Star.
I have heard.
He almost has full control, but the rebels blow it up before he gets it.
I have heard that being discussed. I've never read the story, but that's
That's a good story.
so that's the second Death Star, isn't it?
Yeah, the second Death Star.
Right, not the OG one.
Because, yeah, there's actually...
Oh no, of course, because he
4
turns up in
clones of
Empire
him.
Strikes Back. That wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I had heard that apparently IG-88 is going to be in the Mandalorian series.
Yeah, so that would be good. Maybe he'll further the cause of the droids trying to rise up, because that was his whole thing.
Well, at least maybe it's just another one who looks like him in another way. But I feel like that the Mandalorian feels like there's there'll be a lot of fan service in there anyway. So
Yeah, it's the sort of thing I'd probably be interested in.
I have to come back for the commentary. It's those scanners. They always light up, don't they? Why can't they do a homing beacon that doesn't light up?
Well, I don't think we even saw the homing beacon that Vader put on board the Falcon that led them to Yavin 4 in Episode 4.
Yeah, that's because he was smart enough to not have a light up one.
That must be
He
it.
was like, they can spot him from a mile out.
So Han just name dropped CEC, which is Corellian Engineering Corporation, who build starships. And so he's saying that his dad worked for them. And they're like a major company. Because in the EU, there were major companies
Yep.
as well. That was another...
Kind of like
avenue.
Detroit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of like Detroit with all the car factories. It's actually a pretty crappy city, but a lot of manufacturing, a lot of working class.
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense that that's Han's background. And so that's interesting. Yeah.
I think you're just like, oh, I got something.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've taken part of the concept of Kessel and the Moore cluster, and they're using a lot of similar words, but it's not exactly the same. So
They're just bending it to their will.
yeah. So the idea from the books was that the Moore cluster is a cluster of black holes that form a maze. So like you can cut through it if you're brave enough and a good enough pilot to go through the maze. But it's also, you can just fly close to it and around it. And that's the way most people do it. But also in the middle of the maze, if you can get into the middle, there's a secret Imperial installation that is designing Death Stars as well.
Oh, yes. Now, I think we talked about it when you were on last time, was the Jedi Academy book where Han and Chewie get captured and they get sent back to Castle.
Yeah.
And they get out because they find, what's his face? Kip Durran
yeah.
on there, who sort of leads them out.
Yeah, it was a good book.
And he
Yes,
sort of leads them out of. Does he do the Kessel Run to get them out, or do they?
Yeah, well, because Kip's force sensitive, and if you're force sensitive, you've got a much better chance. So Han and his luck kind of means that he's brave enough to do it and lucky enough to sometimes pull it off.
Yep.
But Kip can kind of do it naturally and takes him deeper in than he's ever been before.
We're just in Lando's little cape closet that he's got.
Yeah, well, he's going to have a large...
It must mean that there's probably a washing machine or some irons or something, or a hot press on the Falcon.
He's probably got secret compartments rather than for smuggling, there for his laundry.
Yeah, it's true. But he's got the wet bar and all the other things, isn't there?
I see, like, she wants to tell him everything that's happened.
Yeah, some more smooching on the Falcon.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the last time for Han. He's probably done some of his best work. I do like, you can see Lando's little tropical shirt in the background there. I do like that shirt that he wears at the end of the film, the little Tropicano shirt.
Well, Lando's got to be ready for any social situation he can end
that's
up in.
right.
But yeah, the Falcon there hasn't really had too many changes to it.
No, I mean, the layout's exactly the same, obviously, but it definitely is. It's definitely a lot cleaner, a lot schmicker. Because they obviously do the Kessel Run and they beat the hell out of the ship, so the outside looks pretty close to how the Falcon ends up looking, but they don't really go into details of the interior. But I'm assuming it just means Han's just a little bit more messy over the years.
Yeah,
I mean, he has it for about a
imagine.
decade before before we see it again.
And he's got a Wookiee living on board. He probably sheds.
Doesn't go in the toilet.
Doesn't take his turn doing the chores.
No. Who's going to argue with him, really?
Nah. And yeah, so hyperspeed's supposed to be kind of like you're in another dimension, but gravity can impact you. So that's why you couldn't just fly past black holes,
Yep.
because it would be quite difficult. So that all kind of tracks. But again, with episode 8 and this whole ramming a ship at light speed, you're supposed to be able to just slip into the other dimension and shouldn't run into that ship.
Oh, what happens if you're really close to it, though?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you're just getting up to speed. Yes, I'm digressing on that.
No.
Yeah, see, Carbonbergs, that's a new one. That's a...
Did they ever? Is there any sort of backstory about how they even found Kessel to start with?
Yeah, well, because in the books, Kessel is in space, and like you could go to it, and the Moore cluster is just adjacent.
Right.
But here it's kind of implying that
It's surrounding it.
Kessel's inside it.
Sort of in the middle, isn't it?
Mm.
It's almost like Kessel is the Death Star installation.
Yeah.
That you've got to get through that thing to get there.
Well, yeah, where they design all the super weapons. Yeah, I don't know. It's also not how I would have pictured black holes, but then I guess it would be quite hard to...
Well, they're black.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about, that must have been the Red Dwarf episode. The thing about black holes is that they're black.
Yeah.
And the thing about space is they're black. So how are you supposed to see them?
Makes it quite difficult.
Yeah, so it does feel like that it's, that Kessel, well, they show it, it's basically this planet in the middle of all this other stuff, so...
Well, that's definitely a change. Like that's more like what the Moore cluster installation was. The secret base.
So why do you need to make a Kessel Run then if you don't have to go through anything to get to Kessel? Is it just to get out of there?
It's to get away, yeah.
Because it's surrounded by Imperials.
Yeah, because like it's the only place that you can get the spice. And you got to duck in and duck out. So okay, it makes sense that they set it up this way.
Well, considering he's not getting spice either. Again,
Yeah, I'm like, where's the spice?
So that fellow on the screen now is played by a guy called Details, who listeners of the Steel Wars podcast, he's had him on a couple of times. He's a British chap, and he's been in all the Disney Star Wars films. He's sort of like a performer. He does creature performing and stuff like that. So that's him at the front. And I saw a very nice photo of him quite recently with him and his action figure.
Oh, did you?
I mean, there's a life goal right there.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And he's an awesome dude. Like it would be, someone who's as much into Star Wars as you or I, getting to be on set and play characters and stuff.
Yeah, I might have just missed it, but they just did drop a line about spice. Something about your spice for our merchandise.
Ah, yeah.
I think that's just a name drop, like.
Well, maybe Kessel's rich of all sorts of stuff.
Could be. Well, I guess Chewie is a slave once again.
He always seems to get chained up, Chewie.
Yeah.
That's the best way to bust into someone. I think when I had Cam on, we were talking about that. Anytime that you see Chewbacca chained up anywhere, you should be suspicious that you're about to get effed over, really, because it's like Wookiees are pretty aggressive if you manage to actually.
I guess it wasn't made very clear why he was in the pit to begin with. I think it was just something entertaining for the Imperials or Mimbam to be.
Yeah, they
like,
haven't
we'll
actually
just chuck people in there, and
They picked him up along the way somewhere. And then he obviously has been eating some people before, because why would you keep him there if he's not doing his job?
well, they're a meat eater, so
Yeah, that's
That
right.
makes sense.
You see him go after that that Ewok trap. Oh, and eating porgs as well. And there's obviously Beckett in the Lando Jabba's palace gear, which I think we had that action figure.
yeah. So Lando got his gear through in Shadows of the Empire in the EU.
Ah.
Yeah, but it was kind of given to him.
So if it's already on the ship, then it almost implies that it belongs to Lando.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, unless Beckett was just carrying it around with him, but he, they go to Dryden's thing and he puts his gun down and he's like, well, that's all I got. So it's not as if he's got a suitcase full of stuff. So that would imply that Lando, that actually belongs to Lando.
Yeah, well, that does make sense.
Yep. And it just goes back onto the Falcon.
And that Han never chucked it out because he was like, that could be useful at some point. And that was Terrace Cassie, wasn't it? Yep.
Have you ever played the game?
No. Have you?
No, but I hear it's terrible. It's always sort of up there with the worst Star Wars games.
Oh, it's supposed to be a devastating martial art, Terrace Cassie.
Well, it was pretty devastating just there, but I think the game is sort of like a poor man's Street Fighter, or I think it was like Virtua Fighter, or one of those sort of like blocky PS1 kind of things.
Well, yeah, Star Wars for a long time couldn't make a bad Star Wars game. There are a lot of really good PC games. But, yeah, that one was quite famously a misfire.
But, there you go. It's resurrected with a nice little drop, a little name drop.
And again, with that little graphic that we just saw, that was a very 70s type graphic.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's the little the line graphics and stuff. It's all pretty basic. They haven't really come a long way on their design aesthetic. But that's cool, whatever works.
Well, particularly because it wouldn't make sense that technology progresses as you get into the original trilogy. It's only with the new movies that'll come out that they can suddenly
Well, that's right.
Oh,
It's
now
gotta
the
be
technology is advanced.
I feel like the prequel stuff looked better, but I guess they were on nicer planets. You know, like Naboo stuff was quite nice, but they probably had a bit more money. They're a bit more Art Deco.
Well, plus the Empire's probably made everything. If it's not functional, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, is Chewie supposed to know these Wookiees, or is it just the fact that they are
I think
Wookiees?
he's just looking after his bros, I think. I think he's more just going, I hear a Wookiee in danger. Now, I think we might have actually missed it. That I always thought it was because Chewie, when they get the guard stuff, Chewie pulls the arms off the guards. And I always thought they missed a chance that Han would put that on and then he'd be wearing a vest because he'd be wearing wearing the black vest with the white thing because there's no arms on the jacket anymore. But no, apparently that was too on the nose.
Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Maybe that was, and that's a very strange looking malnutritioned Wookiee there who's lost all his face fur.
Well, he hasn't had the chance to eat anybody. Yeah, I guess we don't really find out too much about the Pikes and what their dealio is.
No, they just sort of seem to be running things, don't they? But again, I think it's a thing where the Empire just kind of come and take what they want when they want, and then the Pikes kind of sell off whatever else they've got left over. So standards, is that a common measurement of...
No,
is it like their metric system?
They've got a few things like credits and things instead of money. But yeah, not that particular one. They've got a lot of units of measurement, but not that.
Never heard of standard.
The Calrissian Chronicles, Chapter 5. Now that's very funny that he said he wasn't that impressed with the Sharu when they are like a highly advanced alien civilization. They're like well beyond anything and everything.
So this is that was one for you right there, was it?
That was
a gag.
one for me.
Was a
That
gag
one
for you right in there.
Yeah, because Lando obviously had the Falcon for quite some time, and he was off doing his own thing. And quite often it would involve advanced cultures. Like, he kind of ran into 3 of them. But yeah, that was before they kind of knew what Star Wars was going to be. And so, these beings would be capable of operating on, like, a much larger scale than the Empire ever could. So.
Oh, okay. So they're canon again now.
Yeah, which is exciting. So it is nice to see all these little nods and slowly bringing things back in.
Well, it's a good little body slam there from Chewie.
Yeah.
He basically just dumped some dude on his face. Stay with me, Sagwa. I don't know. Is that Sagwa? I assume?
I guess. Was that the first time that Chewie had ever ruffled Han's hair?
Oh, it might have been.
He didn't seem too impressed about it.
No, well, he's got a nice little quiff going on there. He does, that hair takes time.
Lando's not at all bothered by laser bolts going every which way.
I think he's just worried about them, shooting holes in his ship. This is some classic Han Solo. When you doing the blasting out the front of this thing, that's like, yep.
Yeah, like Alden really had the moves down right. I think he was well cast.
Oh, I think for sure. Now, we haven't touched on it that I did actually have my cousin Angus, who's an actor, on the show a week or 2 ago before this one will come out, and he auditioned for young Han Solo. And he didn't. They didn't tell him that it was a young Han Solo when he read for it. It was basically Red Cup, which was the sort of the production code name that a lot of big movies do, so that people don't go, "Oh, it's Star Wars, all right, well, it's going to cost this much," you know.
Yeah.
So he just got some scenes and stuff, but he said it didn't say anything about Star Wars. It was very generic, and it was sort of like a college scene. And he sort of read for it, and then they said, "Oh, that's very good, but can you make it more like Chris Pratt?"
Well, that would have been indicative right there.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. Like that, I guess if you say, "Can you make it more like young Harrison Ford?" it might kind of give the game away a little bit of what you're trying to do. But yeah, that's quite interesting, you know, because obviously Chris Pratt's name's come up a few times for taking over Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, I still think that could happen.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But the other little tidbit that he said that in here that he went to WAPA, which is the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, and in the year above him was the guy who was in Stranger Things season 2, who was the kind of intense dude with the mullet. He kind of became the enemy of the what's his name? Who's the dude? Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's actually an Australian actor, and he's from, then he was a year above Angus at his thing, and he said that apparently he got very close to being young Han Solo, that he was in the last few. Yeah, well, he was in the mix. But apparently I'd heard that Alden was the first guy that they saw, and he ended up he was the guy.
Yeah, well, I guess if they're not going to commit to more movies, perhaps Alden could appear in the Cassian Andor show that's coming.
Yeah, why not? It would be a shame if he never gets to do it again. He's certainly proven that he's got the chops. And here you go, Han's behind the wheel.
Yeah. Yes, because that was part of the idea, was that Lando was not really supposed to be that good at flying. That's why he needs other people around to do it. And having a relationship with a droid as well was an EU thing. The droid was named Vufi Ra and was actually an alien.
Vufi Ra?
Vufi Ra.
That's an interesting one. Oh, poor old L3. Looks like she's... It was quite clever. I had heard a podcast where they had sort of speculated that L3 would end up being part of the ship. That they sort of thought that maybe she was the navigational smarts, and something would happen that she'd become part of the ship. So I actually was, once I heard that, I'm like, oh, that'd be an interesting take. So when this kind of happened, I went, oh no, that's what they'll do. They'll plug her into the Falcon.
Yeah, well, which is not dissimilar to how IG-88 wound up in the Death Star computer. He just got uploaded.
I do like it. They got the little. They nod back to the compartments.
Yeah, sees the potential of those compartments.
That's funny seeing Chewie sort of sitting at the back there.
Yeah. Just kind of staring off.
So we're talking about this on another pod, talking about ownership of the Falcon. That after Han, Rey sort of seems to take over, but it really technically should be Chewie's ship then, shouldn't it really?
Yeah.
Should Chewie not care for possessions? Is he just happy to be along for the ride?
Yeah, I think Chewie quite likes working for somebody else. Chewie's never really run his own stuff. Like, he'll occasionally have his own missions, but he's always quite happy being part of a team.
Yeah, so I guess Rey does steal it on Jakku, and Han does kind of take possession of it, but it could technically still be Rey's Falcon on that, She seems happy enough to give it back to Han when she finds out that it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, well, there's no certificate of ownership, really. It's
it's just whoever
happens to be in the cockpit.
Yeah, that's right.
So this isn't a standard thing plugging droids in that they're not even sure that it can work.
No, I don't think it's like they just got a USB port or something out the back. But it seems to happen pretty quick that she sort of... Well, it makes you wonder, like, you couldn't you just stuck her head onto a different droid body? But I guess they've just gone, well, we need her right now, right at this minute. So
Yep, didn't have time.
we didn't have time. We had a spare droid bit lying around somewhere, and then...
But yeah, like the maelstrom here, I'm guessing, is the black holes being quite close together, like closer than normal.
Yep.
Hence why you've got all these bits that are floating around. But in the EU, the maelstrom was the name of where the Moore installation, the secret base, was.
You actually flew
So,
through the black holes, didn't you?
Yeah.
So the interior is getting a little bit trashed.
Ah, that's true. And it is always nice to see people using the quad lasers to take on...
Yeah, I could watch that all day, really.
Raiders.
I was very happy when that kind of came back in Force Awakens. And in Last Jedi as well, there's a nice little bit. The bit where the Falcon swoops in it at the end in Last Jedi is very cool. And it has the same musical beats as sort of when they're doing it in A New Hope as well.
That's always been in Chewie's backstory that he is quite older than Han.
Yeah, but he's still only sort of in his middle age, isn't he?
Yeah, he's young for a Wookiee. Yeah, you're right. The interior got significantly banged up.
Yeah.
Could be it just never got fixed.
I guess they just don't really go back inside after this, do they? And so I think after this scene ends, they don't really show the inside. They show the cockpit again at the very end when Han and Chewie sort of take off, but...
So yeah, I have no idea what the pilots are. So. And Needles is a new character.
Well, Needles was the guy who Flea plays in Back to the Future, who challenges Marty McFly to a race.
Yes.
So-
Are you chicken?
Yeah, are you Chicken McFly? So I'm assuming that's the little nod to that. It would be a little bit of a coincidence if it was a different street racer.
Yeah.
You know.
And they did say till he crashed, so...
Yeah, that's right. Well, originally in Back to the Future, it
was Marty who crashed.
It's Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was Needles' fault.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, interesting that L3's been in the computer the entire time.
Yeah, you wouldn't sort of take her out, or especially if Lando lost the Falcon.
Yeah.
You were like, well, I want to take my droid with me, but I guess it's sort of like, hey, man, the Falcon's the Falcon.
But yeah,
That sort of sound effect that they hear, the drrrr, that's a sound up noise that's in the... You don't really hear in the Falcon until this point. Like, you hear it throughout the other movies when it boots up.
it's true.
So that's sort of implied
So
that's
it's a sign that she's there.
the sign that she's booting up.
See, like this kind of space is where the secret base is supposed to be in the books.
So we should be keeping an eye out for a prototype Death Star or something around
Yeah,
here.
or for a sun crusher.
Oh, the Sun Crusher.
Yeah. World Devastators.
Didn't the Sun Crusher get thrown into a volcano or something?
Yeah, they parked it in a star, but it was pretty much indestructible, so they were able to pull it out with the Force. But I do like that there's more giant creatures that they've got to deal with.
Yeah, there's like a giant space squid.
Because we've droids and computers, X-Wings are supposed to... The reason they need an astromech droid is so that they can do the navigating.
Yep.
But they've also got an onboard ship computer. So Luke in the EU, he has his X-Wing for a long time, and he has R2 with him for a long time.
Yep.
And so the computer develops its own personality as well, and only R2 can deal with it. And so whenever the New Republic technicians want to deal with upgrading his X-Wing or fixing his X-Wing, they need R2 to talk to the X-Wing.
Oh, right. He's like the gatekeeper. It's a pretty...
So they're all getting sucked into a black hole right now, aren't they?
Yeah, into the maw.
But it's I guess in this, the maw is like a super black hole.
Yeah, I think he said it's a gravity well as well.
And again, like, why is it red?
I don't know. It looks cool.
It does look cool.
It's a bit Star Trek, isn't it? Dropping the...
Yeah, and again, why they picked fuel as their thing. They could have picked anything to be the MacGuffin. But perhaps it was just in service of this moment.
Well, yeah, potentially. Ooh. I do like seeing the Falcon get smashed up.
Poor Falcon.
And the poor old monster's having a rough old time.
Yeah, well, it was probably just having a nap when they rocked up.
Yeah, that's right.
Like its eye opened.
Yeah, he was like, I'm fine, I'm out here, I'm not disturbing anyone. And then these fools turn up and just start...
Yeah, presumably in order to not get sucked into the black holes, it would have to stay perfectly still. And so they've nudged it, and now it's getting sucked in.
This is an interesting shot where it sort of lights up and you fly through the sort of inner guts of the...
Like, it does look very impressive.
Oh, and there goes another satellite dish.
Yeah, nice to get a few replacement satellite dishes. Well, it's supposed to be communication, so he's not supposed to be really able to talk to anyone when that goes.
I do like this little gag. It's a good little Falcon gag.
Poor Falcon. Like, very cool imagery as the Falcon just escaped from the black hole.
Yeah, it is. With this little blue little blur.
So what is it that they're trying to thread the needle between? Is it like just debris?
I think so. Of just that thing all collapsing. I'm not sure what is it. Is that two planets? Is it or two?
Oh, it could be. Oh, they did mention that there were planets in there,
sort of bumping into each other and stuff. Yeah.
And then they were looking to jump to light speed through there. So perhaps, yeah, if there was an obstruction right in front of them, they would ram into it and, yeah.
I do like seeing the... I thought of everything. I do like seeing the Falcon here all smashed up, pulling in. That's more like it.
Yeah. So what planet are they on now?
Is it Savarine, is it?
Ah, right. Well, yeah. It makes sense.
It's very funny, Blando, just looking at the...
I know.
Yeah, it's another little nod, isn't it? But it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Ha, good luck with that, Lando. Yeah, because in the books, like they had quite a close friendship, and like they were together. Like Lando was in that battle protecting the smugglers' home.
Yep. Yeah, look, I think it's implied that they do have other adventures and things. This isn't the next time that they meet until Empire Strikes Back.
Well, I'd be very excited if Donald Glover shows up in the Cassian Andor show.
Well, that would even, well, I mean, why not? You know, everyone's gettable. Just got to get the prices right.
Yeah.
Disney aren't short on a buck.
And Amelia will be free once Game of Thrones ends.
Yeah, well, she'd be looking for work.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones has probably finished filming already, has it? I know you guys are the Thronies. You can probably...
Yeah, I think they've been in post-production for a bit. And that it's supposed to be airing in a couple of months, so... There wouldn't be too much left for them to do, apart from press.
He seems pretty proud of himself to call himself an outlaw.
He does. Like, he's big on the exaggerating. He's
tooting his own horn, so to speak.
Yeah, he hasn't found his identity, it's true.
He pretty much does the right thing in all the books as well, though, doesn't he, really?
True, like it's consistent where he always has swagger, he always kind of claims to be bad, claims to be criminal, but he always finds someone to help and helps them.
Yep.
But after Return of the Jedi, like he's just full on hero all the time.
Yep. Yep.
It's like constantly getting in and fending off threats.
Well, he sort of, as soon as he gets out of the carbonite, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's committed to the cause.
And Memphis Ness is back.
I do like the little musical, little na 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 na.
Got to make a good entrance.
It'd be funny if just all their mates were singing that.
Yeah.
It's not actually the music, it's just the...
Yeah, there are elements of the funnier movie that
Yeah.
that it could have been that do come through.
It's a great
It's
gag.
Balin. And then Han backs up. Sorry, do your thing.
See, Woody Harrelson again seems quite tall there.
Yeah.
I just can't tell how tall Woody Harrelson is. I have to look it up. It's really bugging me.
I can
He was
tell.
like in White Men Can't Jump, he was a basketballer and stuff there, but
But I don't think this
there's
actress
the-
would be that tall.
no.
Those handy voice modulators, you had no idea it was
Yeah.
a red-haired girl underneath all that.
Well, you know, she'd sunburn in that heat. Very fair skin.
Well, good thing that they went inside so quickly. Get a drink.
1.78 meters. They're saying, well, that's shorter than me.
Maybe it's just
5
the
foot
camera
9 and
angle.
a half. Yeah. That is surprising. He's actually, he's not that tall at all.
He's taller than Alden in that shot.
Yeah. And Aaron Wright is 1.76, so he's 2 centimeters shorter than Woody Harrelson, apparently.
Yeah, it looked a lot more than 2 centimeters just then.
Yeah. Harrison Ford is 1.85 meters. So a bit shorter. And then Paul Bettany height, 1.8 meters.
Well, there you go.
No, hang on, that says Paul Wesley, whoever that is. Let's put the wrong Paul in. Getting all the important facts here.
But they definitely were building it up in this little exposition scene for these syndicates to be a big bad, and they were talking about 5 of them. So I reckon that if it had continued, Black Sun might have ended up being one of the syndicates.
Oh yeah. Paul Bettany's 1.91 meters. He's almost 2 meters tall.
Oh, you're still on the height thing, right?
I was sorry. I needed to know.
Well, that's fair enough.
I'm sorry. You're actually talking about the film, but
well, they just mentioned there were 5 syndicates. So I didn't pick that up the first time around.
So there must be Black Sun, a couple others.
Because you would think the other 4 wouldn't stand a chance if Darth Maul was running one of them.
Mm.
So it could be that they've all got Force users. Because in the EU, there were lots of sort of dark side related Force users out there. And a couple of light side ones.
Just scraping a living.
Yeah. But yeah, Kira's very confident that Han will try to help.
Oh, I just that subtitle just said "IC" for Woody Harrelson. I'm pretty sure he says "dicey," like it's a dicey plan. So I haven't quite got the subtitling right on that one.
Well, I've been relying on these subtitles the whole time.
I know I have, because we've sort of had the volume down low, and so you can do the recording.
But you can see the relationship that these two could have had.
Yeah, well, he sees a young him in there, young buck. Cleon Sam, is that a...
Nope, that's another new planet.
That's a new one.
And the Valacord is definitely a new instrument.
Whatever that is.
But interesting, the Tatooine thing is supposed to be like one big job. Whereas the Kessel run that Han stuffed up wasn't that big a job.
It was just another job.
It was just a job.
But he couldn't cover the losses.
Yeah. And there had been other things that had gone wrong as well with the huts too, so...
You don't want to know those huts.
Yeah, I find myself just watching the movie.
Yeah, well, it's always the way when you do these commentaries. You always end up get sucked into the movie. We're sort of right near the end now. It's Han's got himself a cunning plan here.
Yeah, and Kira's basically warning him that she knows more than he does about the situation he's about to walk into. And
she's like, I know you're going to get sold out, so just...
Yeah. Who's saying that Kira's not ready?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just sort of... I think he's basically just,
wheeling and dealing this guy.
Yeah.
That's good. You should have theatrical villains.
He's quite tall, isn't he, Paul Bettany?
Yeah, well, again with the height.
I know. Well, he's almost as tall as Chewie.
Well, Chewie was always supposed to be 2 meters. Mind you, that was an EU measurement, so
Yeah, right. Well, it's the young bloke who plays Chewie in this one. It's not
Peter
Mayhew anymore. I think he's sort of retired from Chewie or semi-retired because I think he's.
Yeah, he's still with us though, Peter Mayhew.
He is, but I think he can't sort of run around like he used to. I think his knees are shot. So they've got a young. I don't know where he's from. He's German or Norwegian or something like that. I think he's around about the same height, and he's been the new Chewie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I wouldn't recognise him in the street.
You just go, wow, that's a really tall guy.
It's very sensible of Dryden Voss. He's now been like,
Yeah.
we'll stop mucking around here.
He's like, hey man, I'm a businessman. I gotta inspect the goods before I
Yeah. And this is just some liquid I picked up in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, that's right. But it actually is the real thing. He's just, he's working him. He's just, it's in that Han kind of way, just working the hustle.
Yeah, well, this is very much the con man in him coming out, which is handy.
I was always pretty, sure that Woody Harrelson was going to double cross.
Mm.
He just kind of wanders off. You're like, oh.
There wasn't a long period of time between him walking off the screen and him walking back on the screen.
Yeah, it's a little
Through
bit
the
weird
door.
there, especially after the fight where Han sort of catches up to them as well, because it's sort of, I don't know how he gets ahead of them, because they're sort of walking up, and then he sort of ends up being.
I told you, don't trust anybody, Dr. Jones.
That's right. Don't trust anybody who isn't using their real hair.
Yeah, well, and isn't as tall as they appear.
No, that's right.
But so Kira didn't mention to Dryden that it was what Han was planning.
No, I think Woody Harrelson did.
Yeah. But yeah, so Kira did have authentic feelings for Han. Which
Yeah, I think so. But she also knew that she could, get in charge if she wanted to. Yeah, those guards, they've got a real Fifth Element vibe going on about them.
Yeah, particularly with that voice.
Yeah, and just the design. You can't quite see it. This TV is not as big as the sort of one at home, but you can sort of see the scars on Dryden's face getting more pronounced when he gets upset.
Ah. Well, I have seen your TV at home. It is quite large.
It is quite large. You've got quite a large one now, though, don't you? Didn't you
Yeah,
upgrade
well,
quite recently?
Yeah,
TV talk.
it's now not as small as some other TVs, so that's good news. And curved as well.
Ooh.
So I'll have to put on Solo and watch the scars on Dryden's face.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you can
up.
come and borrow the Blu-ray. We've got it. I'll have to say that the DVD's holding up all right on this telly. It's we haven't had any more picture issues. We sort of tightened the plugs a little bit.
Mm.
There was always going to be
a triple cross.
a cross on a cross on a cross, wasn't there?
But that plan wouldn't have worked if he hadn't anticipated Beckett crossing him.
Well, that's the thing. He was predictable.
Yeah.
He said everybody would. So there's a couple of creatures there in Emphasis crew. There's a Rhodian in there, and there was had 2 tubes from Rogue One. I don't know if it's the actual character or if it's his mate or his brother or his cousin.
Yeah, well, the Rhodians have been kicking around for a while now. But yeah, the nature of their planet has changed a few times between EU and recent times. So no one really knows what Rhodia is supposed to be like.
I do like the old double, triple cross.
Oh.
Triple, double.
Well, are we on the quadruple cross now?
Quadruple cross, yeah. I like how he just leaves them there and they all leap off to their own.
Let's quickly start killing each other.
So I'm not quite sure what these weapons are that he's got. They're sort of slicey, glowy knives kind of thing. That's a very good Han line there.
Yeah, like all the ones that see how it's lighting up like that. That would be like a Hydra blade type deal.
It's like a thing with a space.
Sorry, vibro blade, rather.
Right. So it's another thing with a space sounding name in front of it.
Space sounding name. Which is good because like we never got a good description of them in action. It was always people were threatening with the vibro blades, but you never really got to see it. Like those guards, like the pigs that Luke throttles in the start of Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're supposed to be carrying a version of that weapon, but you never got to see him use it.
I do like how Han is just sort of, it's not like they didn't turn him into some sort of kung fu dude.
Yeah.
He's just a bit of a shonky brawler.
He's just plucky. Like R2.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, it's another cross.
Yeah, that's what, 5 crosses? But yeah, I'm not sure what weapon she's using there because it just sort of took on the vibroblade, but no trouble at all.
Might be some sort of EU sword.
Yeah, well, I can't.
EU sword, can't place it.
Can't think of one that would not light up or do something.
Yeah, you don't really get your standard, just a sword's a sword. It's always got to do
just
something.
Pick up a sharp
vibrate
thing.
or.
Like I always wanted to see those Stockley spray sticks that the Nogu was supposed to have. They sounded awesome. They like cast like a net out, and you get stunned by the net.
You really would have thought that he would have held on to a little bit more coaxium. Like give Emphas Nest like 70% of it and keep the rest.
You can have most of it.
Yeah, just like, come on, man.
Yeah. Besides, he might need to fuel the Falcon at some point.
Because you kind of get to keep a little bit that he uses to get to bet with the Falcon, but
as if
she's got a business to run.
Yep. So it'd be interesting to see what happened with her down the line.
Yeah, well, what do you think she does with Dryden? She just chucks his body out the window or flushes him down the toilet or something like that? Or
Probably just leaves him there, I guess.
I think it's just like, well, too bad if he's done. If he's gone, you there's the power vacuum.
Because yeah, if she followed the arc that she resembles with Briar Tharran, she would eventually end up dead. But Briar Tharran, she died in the exact same circumstance that the Rogue One crew did, where she stayed behind on the planet. Yeah, she's Jyn Erso.
Oh, and here's the reveal.
Mm.
She doesn't sell out Han Solo, though.
Yeah, when she was saying the thief, I thought, uh-oh, she's just sold out Han. Sure, he could have. Qui-Gon could have done it. Obi-Wan could have done it.
Yeah, he's
All
like,
of your
"Oh."
old friends could have done
All
that.
your old mates.
Because he's clearly still got all his powers, Darth Maul.
Oh, that's right. He just doesn't
Like
have any
he's-
legs anymore.
Yeah, like they're not his original legs.
Or his wiener.
Yeah, he's been chopped in half. Did they get Ray Park to play him
Yep,
again?
that is Ray Park.
There you go.
That is my...
Because he does look older.
Steele, my buddy Steele from Steel Wars, he got to interview Ray Park.
Ah, cool.
Because he was doing a lot of the promo when the DVD came out. And yeah, he was pretty pumped. He said that he went to the premiere. He hadn't told anybody that he was in it. He went to the premiere in London and he was sitting with Ewan McGregor.
Oh, that would
And when
cool.
Maul came on the screen, Ewan McGregor like grabbed him and was like, no way, no way.
I thought I killed him.
Yeah, you're back. See how Han gets ahead of him? I don't understand how Han is ahead of Beckett. Did he run along the foreshore and climb up the thing? Or did he cut around him?
Well, Beckett was carrying stuff, wasn't he? Like
yeah,
he was
but still,
carrying
like
the coaxium,
they're on
so
a
he was
cliff.
probably
They're on a
slower.
cliff, and he had to get in front of him. So he's either got to go right around so he didn't see him, or he's got to go. Like, look, the ship's in the background. In order to get ahead of him,
Maybe he took a boat.
maybe. I mean, it's possible Chewie was stalling him or something, but at the same time,
Yeah, and see that's effectively very similar to how Galandro died. The fastest gunman in the galaxy was that Han got there first. But in this case, it's a little bit more cold-blooded. It's just that Han has a drop on him
yeah, he's
and kills him.
he gets caught monologuing, really, doesn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, there's like a quote from one of the Han Solo adventure books, which is, I would always rather shoot first. It's very impressive.
I reckon if Beckett had killed Han, then Chewie would have kicked him off the cliff, probably.
Probably. Yeah, there's no way he would have got past Chewie. So I wonder how they got off this planet. If Kira left and Lando left.
Well, maybe the Emphas Nest gave him a lift.
Oh, I could have done. It's the least Emphas Nest could do for him.
Well, that's the thing. She gives him all the coaxium. He
Yeah,
gives her
he's
all the
just-
coaxium, except for one like little bit. It's gonna toughen you up, mate.
Yeah.
All you got now is your buddy.
Well, that should be enough.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got a Wookiee. Oh, there you are. He is meeting up with Emphas Nest. I think.
Yeah, so it gives them the rest of the coaxium, and they kind of throw him a bone for his trouble,
Yeah.
making Chewie do all the heavy lifting.
So that symbol on their arms, that was supposed to be the symbol of the Syndicate that had been branded on them, right?
I think that was the Crimson Dawn one. I think. So I think it was implying that she's sort of in it for life.
Yeah. But yeah, the origin of the rebellion seems to be getting retconned all the time now.
Well, they just keep going further and further back, don't they? Really. Oh, there's Warwick Davis there, Wicket himself, or Willow. And
Yeah,
that's the same character he plays in Phantom Menace.
Oh, right.
So if you go to the pod race and Jabba, I think where Jabba is, and his character is sitting up there, Warwick Davis, and he's got his mask off, and that's the same character. I can't remember what his name is though. It's like Stinky or Wormy or something. Some kind of,
Yeah, well, Warwick Davis has been in more Star Wars movies than most.
Yeah, he's going to be hosting the main stage at Celebration, I think.
Ah,
Which
cool.
would be cool.
Is that the one you're going to?
Yeah, yeah. So
Ah.
you can timestamp on that, and that'll be in a few months' time.
Woohoo.
That's all they give him. One little...
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how about give us a little bit more, huh?
Yeah.
Or how about I
Like
tell
he
you...
just gave it to
yeah, I know you, we helped you out, and...
And that your rebellion might be important. But it's interesting, they haven't had Bail Organa come back into it.
No. The nebula that he was talking about there, was that an EU...
I actually missed it.
The star something nebula, he said it was. The star... Oh, there you go. There's Tropical Lando. I do like Tropical Lando's shirt. And it's a similar hug to the Empire Strikes Back one.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what Han lifted off him at that moment.
Yeah.
And see, it's all wrong. It's not how it's supposed to look. However, the fact that he won the ship in the car game is exactly right.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes up for it.
They did stick to that, didn't they?
Mm.
But he does actually sort of... he does swindle him, doesn't he? He realizes that he swindles him, and Lando can't say anything because he's like, well, I got the card from you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's kind of like, well... Because I guess he could just be like, hey, look, you've got a Lando
thing.
knows because he's like, hey, you pulled that card. He's like, hey, man, you've got the little card doodah on your wrist.
It's like he pulls it out, says like property of Lando or something.
Yeah, that's right. He's written Lando on his little extra card.
I'd say we don't really have confirmation that Han is using it. Just that he's taken it off Lando and Lando can't use it.
No, I think he does say that you could have used this, yeah.
So he was
so he's saying...
He was holding the card and like, this isn't part of my hand.
Yeah.
This is the one I've taken off you.
Fair and square. Hey, you lost it to me, fair and square.
Yeah, which gives a good origin to that line in Empire Strikes Back. Because Lando probably felt that he was cheating him by not letting him cheat.
Does he need to do another job right away, though? Why doesn't he just...
Well, it's the life. You gotta get involved.
He's got a little ship. He could just go on holiday for a bit. Because he won the pot as well. So he won the ship.
10,000 plus.
Plus whatever's in the pot. So you feel like he wouldn't need to have worked right away. And there you go.
I think Ron Howard did do a good job.
I think he did do a good job. Considering he had to reshoot a whole lot of it. I mean, we'll never know what the other one would have been like. But a good time was had by all, I think.
Well, certainly Alden looked like he was having a good time.
Yeah.
Which is what you want from a Han Solo movie.
Yeah, you don't want everyone to say they're having a rotten time. I know that they did have to reshoot a lot of it, but hopefully they're all enjoying themselves. So any closing thoughts on this one, James, before we put a cap on it?
Yeah, I feel like we did cover it pretty extensively in the last session. I am really intrigued about where this storyline is going, and I do want to see it continued in some form. And watching it a second time, I found it very entertaining. So much so I forgot that we were really doing the podcast. So if you heard the quiet bits,
there's always a couple of bits in every commentary where you get caught up in just getting caught up in the film, really.
Oh, Thandie Newton was up quite high in the credits.
Yeah, but she was higher than L3.
Yeah, she was higher than Chewbacca.
Santuno.
And Paul Bettany.
Well, he was an and.
No, he was
that's
an
always
and.
the name.
That means he's actually at the top.
Yeah, that's right.
It is both a good thing and a bad thing that the run of Star Wars stories has probably come to an end, because I would have liked to have seen this storyline continue, but it's good that they're being forced to do something fresh.
Well, you never know. Who knows? They might just bring it back. I hope they'll do something with the story, hopefully in the characters, and I'm sure they're all contracted for a few more movies. At least, you know, your Aldens and probably Donald Glover and those guys. So I would like to see them, even if they just do a cheaper version, you know, smaller budget.
Couple of episodes of, do we know what Cassian Andor's TV show is going to be called? Keep calling it that.
They could retitle it The Han Solo Adventures.
Yeah, well, they could and they should. But yeah, it was very much like what a lot of Han's standalone adventures was like that. Where like he would find a cause and people to help. He'd still be kind of in it for himself. He would be hanging out with Chewie. It would be messing around with colourful characters. So it was all very much there.
All right. Well, I think we'll stop that. It's getting a bit later. You know, we've got another day at the beach tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks again, mate, for coming on.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
We'll get you on again for a more tradition episode soon. We'll get you to pour over some more of your other favourite EU stuff that we haven't covered.
Well, there's a lot of different topics. So, and I do have to make one small correction of something I said last time, which is I actually have 159 Star Wars novels
Bloody hell.
at my parents' house. And so, yeah, there's a lot of topics that I'd be keen to get into.
That's 159 more episodes we can deep into.
Oh, I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
See ya.